The first thing I did after being reborn was take my wife to buy a car. Then, I took her to see a penthouse with a rooftop terrace. I told her everything about the upcoming zombie virus outbreak. At first, I thought she'd think I had finally lost my mind. But her next move left me absolutely stunned. It looks like I've already won this game of apocalyptic survival. All I had to do was listen to my wife and buy that penthouse. One second, I was arguing heatedly with her about which floor to buy in the condo. The next, I fell to my knees right in front of her. I was trembling uncontrollably. I couldn't contain the raw emotion surging through my spirit. My wife, Yuan Chi, was back. The image of her being torn apart by zombies was a nightmare I could never forget. In the beginning, it was just small news reports. Stories coming out of City S, right next to ours. A rabies patient escaped the hospital and bit several people. The media warned that walking the streets was no longer safe. I wondered what kind of era we lived in where someone bitten by a dog wouldn't get vaccinated. But in less than 3 days, everything spiraled out of control as cases in the city skyrocketed. Graphic videos started circulating on the internet, but they were quickly censored and deleted. If you haven't seen what's coming, you aren't ready for what happens next. I called Olin immediately. The situation here is a nightmare. So many infect. The government shut down the airport, the trains, and the highways. Go get food now. What? Everything is already closed? Are you safe there? How should I know? I'm hiding in my house, too terrified to even step outside. Just listen to me. Go get supplies before it's too late. Right after that, an avalanche of videos showing the infected attacking people flooded social media. The footage was incredibly bloody, showing pedestrians being torn apart in the streets. Supermarkets and pharmacies were overrun in an instant. Everyone was frantically grabbing anything they could get their hands on. I moved fast, knowing there were still some instant noodles left over there. Get the water. Grab as many bottles as you can carry. Salt, soy sauce. We need to take these seasonings too. The shelves were already stripped bare, so we moved on to the next aisle. It was a sea of desperate people everywhere I looked. In the middle of that chaos, we barely managed to grab anything. Just a few packs of instant noodles and a handful of bottles. The government finally issued a late statement. This is a small-scale outbreak. Do not panic or spread rumors. But only 1 day later, the epidemic became impossible to ignore. The city fell, and for those first few days, the government just told us to stay inside. After that, all communication was lost. Yuan Chio and I survived for a month on the food we managed to scavenge, until the very last grain of rice was gone. There was truly nothing left to eat in the house. Even the last pack of noodles was finished. I knew if we didn't go out for food, we would just stay here and starve to death. But the outside was crawling with zombies. Leaving was a suicide mission. I asked her, do you have a better idea? It was better to take the risk than to die of hunger and pure despair. After arguing, we finally decided to head out and search for supplies. But we had barely stepped outside. Yuan Chio and I ran straight into a horde of zombies. One after another, they swarmed us, and we became their prey. Now, it's January 21st, 2035, exactly 10 days before the zombie outbreak. The deed transfer only takes 3 days, so we need to start the paperwork right now. Yuan Chio looked at me confused and asked, Honey, what's wrong with you today? Yesterday, we almost divorced over the penthouse, so why the sudden change of heart? I knew I couldn't hide it anymore. There were things I had to tell her. I sat down in the car and took a deep breath. With a serious expression, I told her everything about my rebirth and the coming outbreak. I told her everything, including the tragic end we met in our past life. Are you running a fever? Today isn't April Fool's Day, you know. I'm not lying to you. It's the truth. In our past life, we died surrounded by monsters. Zombies got us because we weren't prepared and had to scavenge for food. The agony of being eaten alive, it's a pain I'll carry forever. I still remember it, honey, every second of it. Wait, where are you going? I just saw a listing from the real estate agent. The apartment next door is for rent. We have to rent it immediately. That way, the entire rooftop and the penthouse will be ours. I don't want to die again. It hurts too much. You're serious, aren't you? What else would I be? Look at the building's layout. It's a tower structure with only 2 units per elevator floor. If we secure the unit across from us, we'll have a massive private fortress. Our security will skyrocket. It's the only way. The agency handled it quickly, 1 month's deposit and 1 month's rent up front. They were thrilled, though they looked at me like I was a fool with too much cash. Your mind is really working fast today, isn't it? Exactly. Now we have to call our parents and tell them to get here fast. Hello? It's Dad. What's up? I'm in the middle of a chess game. Joan, this old cheat. I took his rook, and now he wants it back. Dad, listen. What I'm about to tell you sounds crazy, but you have to believe me. I told him the whole story about the zombie outbreak and begged them to move in with us. Son, I need to talk this over with your mother and Mr. Juan. Wait, Dad, do you actually believe me? Of course I do. If I don't believe my own son, who can I believe? Besides, your old man grew up reading web novels. Just give me a moment. 1 second. I'll call you. Right back. He had the speakerphone on the whole time. My father's words left Joan and me staring at each other in total shock. The two of us grew up together as childhood sweethearts. We lived in the bank's residential complex because our parents were colleagues. After college, we chose to move away and work in City S. Meanwhile, our parents stayed behind in our hometown. They were still living back in City W. We've discussed it, all 4 of us. We're staying here in City W. Time is too short, and with the Lunar New Year travel rush, the traffic is a nightmare. But Dad, staying there is way too dangerous. What's this? Does this brat think we're too old to handle ourselves? Don't forget, your father has read hundreds of apocalypse novels. I've watched dozens of disaster movies, so my survival experience is top tier. It's much richer than yours. Just think about everything our generation has endured. We're the generation of the 80s. Kid, we have the experience you lack. Life experience is everything. That's just how it is. Son, your most important mission now is to take care of our daughter. Do you still remember in middle school when you put a toad in her backpack and she lost it? She chased you for 3 whole blocks. I sighed and said, I get it. Please, just stay safe and take care of yourselves. We split the tasks. I'd hit the supermarket for supplies while Joan contacted the contractors. I told the foreman I wanted triple-layered bulletproof glass, the thickest he had. Every window in both apartments had to be swapped, along with the main entrance doors. Even the emergency exit needed reinforcement, and every single curtain had to be replaced with soundproof, total blackout fabric without a single gap. The boss looked at me and joked, Are you building a love nest to hide someone away? I didn't laugh. Can you finish it in a week? Price is no object. 5 days, he guaranteed. I'll have it done in 5 days. I pulled out my phone. $50,000 for the down payment. Start right now. I transferred the $50,000 on the spot, demanding they guarantee the quality and security. After receiving my deposit, the boss practically bowed me out of the office with a massive grin. Next, I headed to another company to handle the rest of the job. I ordered 5 large solar panels next. We can install them on the roof in 3 days, the supplier promised. No problem, they'll be fully operational by then. Before buying this apartment, Yuanxio and I lived in a house. Since the unit next door was already fully furnished, I agreed to meet Joan there as soon as he finished work. I called a supermarket warehouse next, posing as a corporate buyer for a massive New Year's party. I demanded they start the bulk deliveries by tomorrow afternoon. Yuanxio hung up her phone and saw me walk in hauling our luggage. Wash your hands and eat first, she said. Then we'll go over the supply list. I froze. Something felt very wrong. Yuanxio doesn't know how to cook. The last time she tried, we spent New Year's Eve in the ER. My mom sent me a tutorial video today, she chirped. I learned how to make fish. Try it. By the way, she added, your dad sent you something. He said you aren't answering him. I'd been busy all afternoon and hadn't checked my phone once. When I opened WeChat, I saw over 99 unread messages from my father. It was a flood of videos and files, Train to Busan, World War Z, and survival guides. One thumbnail showed a man biting into a fat, oozing worm. Another showed a bald man holding a flattened rat while letting out a manic laugh. My father's text read, watch these carefully. Learn from them. Bravo, Dad. Bravo. I need to head to the mall tomorrow to pick up some water purifiers. I took a bite of the fish. It was way too salty. Only you would think of saying that, Yuanxio teased. Check if we need anything else. I'll call the suppliers soon so they can prep it. I sent a copy to our parents. They said they'd look it over and give us suggestions. The list had practically everything we could think of, and Yuanxio had already ordered most of it. Tomorrow we need to go to the appliance store for some freezers. I don't know how long this cold will last. We'll buy fresh fish and meat to freeze. Eating only canned food has too many preservatives. I'm afraid I'll turn into a mummy before I turn into a zombie. All right, order 3 more large freezers. Have them all delivered together tomorrow. And we need to stock up on medicine. That's the hard part. You can't buy much at once. We'd have to hit different pharmacies over the next few days, buying small amounts of painkillers and antibiotics. The truth is, Yuanxio always takes care of everything at home. If I had to organize this myself, I wouldn't even know where to start. I was just about to go back to reviewing the list when my mother suddenly called. Son, we looked over your shopping list. Add some dried goods. Things like shiitake mushrooms and dried bamboo shoots can be stored at room temperature. Also, don't forget fruit. Canned fruit has way too much sugar and preservatives. But fresh fruit doesn't last long, and even apples have a shelf life. They won't even last a month before rotting. So if you're worried, you should dehydrate them. I already sent the instructions to Yuanxio on WeChat, so check them out in a bit. I noticed Yuanxio's expression as she looked at her phone. It was a bit strange, and when I hung up, I saw she was reading the drying tutorial my mom sent. The tutorial itself was serious, and the steps were all correct. But the title of the guide was, How to Make Daily Fruit Snacks for Your Children, for your pet hamsters. At that moment, there were only 9 days left until the zombie outbreak. The workers from the renovation company finally started arriving at the site. Money really is a powerful thing. For an apartment just over 1,000 square feet, they brought in 7 or 8 workers. Sledgehammers in hand, they began to tear everything down. Boss, I see those 2 are installing bulletproof glass and security bars, one worker noted. This looks like a panic room from a movie. What do you 2 do for a living? That's right, we're special agents. Yuanxio joked. What do we look like? Who told us to buy a penthouse? My husband is terrified of heights and feels insecure. Being up this high, he feels like he's going to fall every day, and he's paranoid about burglars. So we decided to install everything at once just so he can sleep at night. She really knows how to lay it on thick. The noise from the renovation was deafening. It made my scalp tingle with the constant vibration. Since we didn't have anything of value left in the house anyway, Yuanxio and I decided to head out to buy more supplies. Just as we stepped out of the elevator on the first floor, we heard a voice calling out to us. Young lady, young man, you just moved in, didn't you? That renovation upstairs, it's at your place, right? I recognized her immediately. It was Mrs. Zhang. She lived on the first floor with her 12-year-old grandson. In my past life, during the early stages of the outbreak, Yuanxiu and I received so much help from them. The only hot meal we ate back then was prepared by Mrs. Zhang. My nephew tried to send us supplies using a drone, but the signal cut out and we lost all communication. I looked at her and smiled. Yes, Auntie, we're remodeling the place. I'm sorry if the noise is disturbing your rest. No, not at all. Don't you worry about that. She waved it off. I just saw you two moving in recently and wanted to say hello. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to come find me. Thank you, Auntie, I replied, feeling a pang of gratitude. It's almost the new year. You should probably stock up on some extra food. It won't be easy to buy things soon, so if you need help carrying anything, just call me. I couldn't just come out and tell her the truth. I knew the end of the world was coming, but not everyone is like my wife, trusting me blindly. Hello, do you have any fever reducers? My husband is burning up. The hospital is so packed we couldn't get in, and he's been like this for a while. His temperature is 103.5 degrees. Okay, I'll take a box of ibuprofen and a box of amoxicillin. When I got back to the car with the medicine, Liansu immediately pressed an ice pack against my face. I'm fine, I told her. The pepper I used was a sweet one. It doesn't sting much. This trick was working, so we planned to use it again at the next pharmacy. We spent the entire morning running from one side of the city to the other. We hit over 10 pharmacies, both large and small, across town. By the end, we had secured 30 boxes of amoxicillin and 20 boxes of cephalosporin. I added 20 boxes of sustained-release ibuprofen capsules to the haul. Then came 20 boxes each of omeprazole, Gaviscon, and berberine. I grabbed 20 boxes of paracetamol and 10 cans of Yunnan Baiyao spray. I didn't forget 5 cases of medical-grade alcohol. Along with bandages and other supplies, we had bought almost every common medicine available. I even made sure to stock up on feminine hygiene products for the long haul. I even grabbed 2 bottles of intimate wash for myself. When we got home, the 2 women stayed behind in the neighborhood. The new windows and security bars were already installed. Boss, the windows and bars are done. We can start the soundproofing tomorrow. Good work, guys. Try to wrap it up quickly. Based on what the workers said, we'd finish the soundproofing for this room tomorrow. As for the other house, I had to wait for the transfer and the keys. The entire afternoon turned into one massive unloading operation. Supplies from the supermarket filled the guest room to the brim. Then there were the 2 829-liter refrigerators and the 3-door model we ordered. They were so big they practically took up half the living room. Mom, look, we bought enough supplies to last a whole year. My goodness, are you two planning on opening a convenience store? Right then, my mother started a video call with us. On the screen, my father and Liansu's father were fixing up the house with dirty faces. They're washing the balcony. Honey, look at what these 2 old men are up to. Dressed like Mario, you'd think they were professional bricklayers. But the bricks they laid were so crooked the image looked distorted. In a few days, once the cement dries, we can plant some vegetables. Not bad, right? Qintao, damn you, how could you? Buying chickens without checking if the cage was locked was a mistake. A second later, I saw an egg fly through the air and smash against my mother-in-law's head. With only 4 days left before the outbreak, the security reinforcements for both houses were done. The emergency exit doors were replaced, and the soundproofing was finally finished. I took a long look at the progress. Watching them fix the balcony gave me an idea. Who knows when this nightmare will end? Instead of leaving the rooftop empty, we should buy vegetable seeds to plant. Once the weather warms up, we can be self-sufficient with our own greens. I told the workers I'd pay an extra 5,000 yuan to build a planter on the roof. No problem, boss. That's easy. We'll have it ready in an afternoon. It wasn't exactly rocket science for them. Besides, this was extra cash they didn't have to split with their construction boss. They worked with a level of enthusiasm I hadn't seen before. In less than an afternoon, the planter was done, and they even helped me haul everything up. They brought a dozen sacks of soil, claiming it was perfect for flowers. That evening, my wife arrived with a mountain of packages, all the seeds she'd ordered online. I looked at the rose seeds and asked, "Are you planning to make flower cakes like Wang Gang? Valentine's Day is coming up, then May 20th, then Qixi, my birthday, and our anniversary. Did you really think the end of the world would get you out of buying me gifts? Honey, I'm leaving these seeds in your hands. Oh, and if you only give me flowers, I'll get bored. The rest depends on how you behave." With only 1 day left before the virus hit, I stayed home finishing the final preparations. We had almost everything, but I did one last check and bought a few more supplies. I packed the house and the freezers until the refrigerators were bursting at the seams. Just in case, I bought some long-handled fruit knives from the shop downstairs. I also grabbed 2 bamboo poles meant for drying clothes. I lashed the knives to the poles with rope to improvise a pair of spears. I finished my resignation paperwork and brought my things home from the office. I saw more boxes and asked, "What's this?" I thought we'd received all our online orders. "My dad sent them," she said. "They're the walkie-talkies my mom used at the bank vault. They have a great signal and long range. We might need them eventually. And this is a radio," she continued. "It belonged to my great-grandfather, used it to track the stock market. It could be useful after the outbreak." After dinner, Yuanxiu and I grabbed a couple of drinks. We stepped out onto the balcony to watch the night fall. Only 1 night left. Starting tomorrow, peaceful moments like this will be gone forever. I've been rereading that novel your dad sent to the group chat lately, she whispered. What if your rebirth changed the world? The butterfly effect. Maybe the zombies never come. That would be wonderful. But what would we do with all this food we've hoarded? We'll open a shop, she laughed. I'm done being a corporate slave. But there was no butterfly effect. The zombie apocalypse arrived exactly as planned. On the day of the outbreak, a video of a rabies patient escaping and biting people surfaced. It went viral everywhere in a matter of minutes. I posted a warning. This video isn't what it seems. Stock up on supplies and stay inside. Buddy, you've been watching too many sci-fi movies, one guy replied. Relax. Ha ha ha, are you writing a novel or something? Another mocked. It's a good plot, though. Let me know when you publish it. The jokes continued until things started spiraling out of control. It didn't take long for the zombie virus to reach our city. Just one day later, Yuanxiu witnessed the first outbreak right in our residential complex. That was the moment the zombies officially invaded our lives. Our window looked right down at the security booth. Wait, what is that? She gasped. The zombies tackled the guard, and after a few blood-curdling screams, the horde tore him apart. Don't make a sound, I whispered. Hurry, get back. Outside, the air filled with screams, curses, and desperate cries for help. The sickening sound of zombies gnawing on bones never seemed to stop. The neighborhood group chat was pure chaos, flooded with pleas for rescue. What the hell is this? I'm hiding inside. I just saw Xiao Shang from management. Half his face was missing, but he was still walking. Is the world ending? My husband went to work this morning, and he's not answering his phone. Social order was crumbling before our very eyes. Babe, when is this outbreak going to end? Yuanxiu asked. Everything will be fine, I replied. We're going to be okay. The government broadcast finally cut through the static. Dear citizens, our nation will overcome this. Do not panic. Trust in the government's ability to handle this emergency. Give us time. We will protect your lives and property. By the 5th day of the virus and the 3rd day of the full-blown outbreak, the official statements denying the rumors finally turned into a desperate warning. Suddenly, every television channel began looping the same emergency message. The alert hit every cell phone in the city simultaneously. Government aid wasn't coming anytime soon. From the neighboring city of Sevasina, total silence. I looked at my indoor garden. Look, the lettuce I planted is already sprouting. It was holding up well against the winter cold, unlike the seeds that hadn't broken soil yet. Our other seeds were still struggling to adapt to the environment. I smirked. Useless. We, the 80s generation, are the true survival experts. In that moment, I truly understood what it felt like to live in luxury while the world outside rotted. Yuanxiu sat back, snacking on sunflower seeds while watching cooking videos on her tablet. I was already planning to pull a chicken from the freezer to try a new recipe that night. Our carefree abundance was a sickening contrast to the reality outside. The neighborhood chat was nothing but a chorus of wails and misery. Does anyone have food left? My family hasn't eaten in 3 days. Please help me. Does anyone have stomach medicine? I ate expired bread, and the pain is killing me. When is the government aid finally going to get here? Even if they can't rescue us, they could at least airdrop some supplies. Trading 3 bottles of 53-degree Maodai Feitian for 5 kilos of pork. Strong, healthy man seeking wealthy woman to support me. If the pay is right, I'll take men too. Yuanxiu and I decided to ignore the desperate pleas in the neighborhood chat for now. Our supplies looked like a lot, but they weren't infinite. Who knew when this would end? In the apocalypse, zombies aren't the only terrifying thing. The human heart is worse. If we help them now, we wouldn't just be wasting money. We'd be wasting resources and painting a target on our backs. I'm no saint. I messaged Aoyu. If you and your grandmother are okay, but need food or anything, you can come to us. We still have a little left. I figured this was my way of paying back Grandma Shang for the warm food she gave me in my past life. It was the 7th day of the zombie outbreak, and today was New Year's Eve. Even if the world was ending, important traditions still had to be celebrated. We got up early, and after dinner, we sat together in our fortified home. Once I finished my security rounds, I started cleaning the house. I hung up the red lanterns and got to work. I pasted the traditional couplets and the Fu character to create a festive atmosphere. Yuanxiu was busy in the kitchen preparing the New Year's feast. I looked at the recipe for Wang Gang's braised chicken and thought, doesn't look too hard, I'll make it tonight. With practice, Yuanxiu's cooking skills had actually improved quite a bit. She could finally get things cooked through without everything turning out way too salty. She worked hard until nightfall and managed to put together a 5-course dinner. I looked at one dish and asked, what exactly is this? Charcoal chicken, she replied. I stared at the plate. The charcoal looks great, but where's the chicken? Eat it or don't, she snapped. You should be honored I even cooked for you. There was no New Year's gala on TV this year. Usually, we'd travel home for the holidays, but this time, home was all we had. We managed to get a video call through to our parents for a virtual dinner. You two stay safe, my dad said. Don't you dare go outside. Happy New Year, everyone, I said. We're doing fine, so don't worry about us. Yuanxiu, honey, her mom added. He still can't cook, so have some patience with him. Mom, he was actually good today, she laughed. He even put up the decorations. But as the pressure of the world outside set in, the laughter on the screen began to fade. Mom, Dad, please. You have to take care of yourselves. Don't worry, daughter, your father has read enough apocalypse novels to know the drill. We said our final goodbyes and hung up the call. I was just about to take advantage of this rare, quiet moment for some intimacy. Suddenly, a sharp crackling sound echoed from the hallway. Someone was actually setting off fireworks, right inside the building. What a total genius. Normally I'd hate the noise, but now it felt like a flicker of human life. But as soon as the thought crossed my mind, we looked at each other and froze. Damn it, this guy is a moron with a natural talent for chaos. In that instant, whatever buzz we had from the dinner vanished. I grabbed my binoculars and sprinted toward the rooftop. We were screwed. The hallway door wasn't locked. The fireworks kept exploding, and the zombies were starting to react. They were drifting toward our building, scattered at first, but were right by the main street. The main entrance gate was wide open too. At this rate, every zombie in the area would be lured right to us. Yuanxiu hopped on the WeChat group, demanding to know which idiot was doing this. She told them the noise was too loud and was drawing the horde. I rushed back inside and killed almost every light in the room. Then, I pulled out my makeshift weapons. Body tense, I leaned against the wall right by the emergency exit. I waited for a reply on the phone, but no one answered. And right then, the sound of the fireworks intensified. It was obvious those people didn't care about their lives anymore. Were they actually looking for death, even though it hadn't claimed them yet? I was glad I'd reinforced the security measures and replaced the main door. Even with a thicker one installed, I didn't dare let my guard down. It was too dark outside to see if any zombies had managed to slip inside. All we could do was wait. About 5 or 6 minutes later, the atmosphere shifted. The fireworks in the hallway finally stopped. In that moment, Yuanxiu and I both let out a silent sigh of relief. How did I not remember a genius like this from my past life? But just as we relaxed, ready to head back to the room, a woman's scream echoed from the floors below. Then came a man's terrified howl from the hallway right outside. What the hell were you thinking, lighting fireworks? Shut up, Shenyang already got bit. Take the emergency exit, run up. Judging by the sound, there were 2 of them, and they weren't far from our floor. In an instant, my nerves were shot right back to the breaking point. That pair was a total disaster, screaming like that with zombies everywhere. A moment later, I heard their frantic footsteps approaching. And right behind them, the sound of dragging feet and low, guttural growls. What did we do to deserve a pair of geniuses like this in our building? If it were just 1 or 2 zombies, maybe we'd have a chance. But judging by the sound, at least 7 to 10 of them had broken inside. I whispered to Yuanxiu, be careful, don't open the door under any circumstances. But when I looked at her, I froze. What are you doing? Yuanxiu had pulled a bottle of high-proof liquor out of nowhere. She was stuffing a piece of cloth into the neck of the bottle. In her other hand, she was already flicking a lighter. Keep your voice down, I hissed. We have to pretend no one is on this floor. This is for an emergency, she whispered back. I saw it in the movies. If it doesn't work, to hell with it, we'll burn them all. The footsteps in the emergency exit were getting louder and closer. I had already double-locked the main door. I gripped the spear I'd fashioned and aimed it straight at the entrance. Is anyone there? A voice screamed. Open the door, the zombies are coming. I have money. We have so much money. Please help us. Less than 30 seconds passed before the pounding started. The banging on the door was relentless, and the voices outside sounded desperate. Yuanxiu and I stood frozen, staring at each other, knowing that opening that door meant death. Time ticked away, second by agonizing second. Then, I heard the sound of the zombies reaching them. A man's scream ripped through the air, followed immediately by another. For a second, the sound of nails clawing at the wood was deafening. The scratching against the door became unbearable. A sharp, agonizing shriek rang out, and then I heard the feeding begin. The sound of teeth tearing into flesh filled the hall. We couldn't save them. It was the 8th day of the outbreak, and we listened to the carnage all night. I waited until the sky finally began to pale with the first hint of light. Silence finally reigned outside, so we retreated back into the room. That was when I pulled out the drone I had purchased earlier. I powered it up and sent it flying out the window. The emergency exit layout allowed me to see the hospital grounds nearby. I had a perfect vantage point to assess our current situation. The drone feed flickered to life as it reached the hallway. Despite having lived through 2 apocalypses, the scene on the screen horrified me. Fresh blood and chunks of raw meat were scattered everywhere. The body of a man with half his head missing was wedged into the railing. 3 zombies wandered aimlessly between our floor and the one below. One of them was standing right in front of our door. They were a constant threat. I had to find a way to lure them downstairs. Using the drone's buzzing motor to my advantage, I steered it carefully. I flew it straight through the hallway window toward the zombie. As it reached the door, the drone brushed past its face to grab its attention. It worked. The creature lunged and swiped its claws at the device. The immersion was so intense, I almost dropped my phone as I guided it away. Slowly and steadily, I maneuvered the drone further out. I led it down the hallway, luring the zombies from the upper floors down with it. When the camera reached the 24th floor, I spotted the remains of fireworks. I also saw a female zombie in pajamas devouring the carcass of a cat. She looked like the woman bitten last night, but I didn't recognize her. I had no memory of her from my past life. My only goal now was survival. My plan was to lure every single zombie out of the hallway and into the open. But this was my first time flying a drone, and I made a mistake near the center. On the 15th floor, the drone slammed into a wall, lost control, and plummeted out the window. In an instant, the 7 or 8 zombies following it charged toward the ledge. I watched the screen as they scrambled over the edge of the building. 2 or 3 zombies fell straight down into the abyss of the night. The immediate threat in front of our door was finally gone. Right then, my phone vibrated in my hand again. I opened the message and saw that Yuan Q had sent me a zip file. I stared at the screen and typed, "What is this?" Yuan Q replied, "My father sent it to me a long time ago. He said they were martial arts videos. No restrictions. After what happened last night, I thought about the worst-case scenario. I decided that starting today, we're going to learn this together, just in case." Day 14 of the outbreak. Just like in the video, the Mexico City police force was being overrun. Just as I remembered, the city's power grid finally gave out, but our electricity didn't. Our home was already connected to the solar panels on the roof. Besides, the cell towers didn't seem destroyed yet, so we still had internet. As for the water, we had already stored enough for a couple of residents. It was plenty, so the blackout didn't really disrupt our lives much. Early the next morning, Yuan Q came down from the roof, wrapped in so many layers she looked like a polar bear. "This weather is so strange," she said. "It's supposed to be almost spring, but it gets colder every day. I just went up there, and the flowers we planted haven't even sprouted. What a shame. Looks like there won't be a Valentine's Day gift." It was the same in my past life, a side effect of the apocalypse, making the weather more extreme. Inside wasn't so bad, with 5 solar panels holding up the load. The air conditioning could run at full power without any issues. But outside, the temperature was dropping well below zero. Now that the power was gone, I didn't know how the people in the complex would survive. Day 29 of the outbreak, and the temperature was still freezing. There was no more news from the government. It was early March, and it had snowed in the city all night long. The snow piled up high, something this city hadn't seen in nearly 10 years. When we woke up, the entire world outside was covered in white. We bundled up and headed to the roof to check on things. The simple plastic greenhouse we built had collapsed under the weight of the snow. The lettuce that had barely started to sprout was completely crushed. We stood there, feeling absolutely devastated by the sight. Her parents were already bragging on social media, posting videos of themselves making dumplings. Meanwhile, our little agricultural venture died before it even began. Yuan Q sent a video of the destroyed garden to the family group chat, looking for comfort. Instead, she got mocked by her old-school father. He joked about why technology hadn't invented a way to steal vegetables online yet. "Watch your mouth, little girl, you've still got a long way to go. Did you not live through the era of Happy Farm? Don't you know how cruel society is?" He was clearly in a good mood despite everything. Reading my father-in-law's words, Yuan Q and I just stared at each other. His sarcasm was biting, but then, something else caught our eye. Our attention suddenly shifted to a zombie wandering down below. The heavy snow didn't seem to affect it at all as it moved with total freedom. It looked like the weather didn't bother the zombies much. Right then, an idea popped into Yuan Q's head. She packed a snowball and hurled it directly at the zombie below. Thud! The snowball hit the ground. The zombie's attention was instantly captured. Yuan Q already had a second snowball ready, and this time, her aim was perfect. A silent snowball war began, using the zombie as our target practice. Soon, we started throwing them at each other instead. After finally finishing 2 snowmen on the roof, we collapsed onto the snow, watching the flakes continue to fall. I wondered if this plague would end once the snow finally melted. Would it be over? Would everything go back to normal soon? It was a beautiful thought, but reality is cruel. Day 30 of the outbreak, and the internet finally died. There was no signal left at all. Yuan Q had been on a video call with my mother right before it happened. She was showing off a new dish she had cooked in the house. When the call cut out, we just thought it was a bad connection. We restarted the phones and toggled airplane mode, but the screen stayed blank. We tried everything, but the result was the same. The internet was gone. Losing it meant losing our only way to reach our parents and the outside world. When she realized this, Yuan Q broke down, her eyes turning red with tears. Knowing our parents were safe had been our only emotional pillar during this time. We knew this day would come, but when it finally did, it hit us hard. I forced my emotions down and told her, "Don't worry, they have more life experience than us." I told her we had to focus on living well every single day. We had to prove to those old folks that we could survive just fine without them. Yuan Q let out a small, tearful laugh at my words. She pulled out her phone and opened the voice recorder. "Could Mr. Chin repeat that so I can play for those old folks later?" she teased. Day 44 of the outbreak, and the weather was still freezing. That night, I quietly peeled back the curtains to check the complex. I needed to see if anything had changed down below. Suddenly, an incredibly bright light blinded me from the street. A car was driving into the complex. Survivors from somewhere else, perhaps? My instinct kicked in, and I grabbed the binoculars to track the headlights. In the building across from us, I saw people sprinting out of the hallway. There were 4 or 5 of them, young and old, looking like a normal family. They were all desperately running toward a van parked right next to the building. Even from a distance, I could see a man in the van waving frantically at them. But the roar of the engine was far too loud and drew every nearby zombie toward them. I watched as one of the elderly family members struggled to keep up while the monsters closed in. The man jumped out of the driver's seat, clutching what looked like a metal clothesline pole. He threw himself in front of his family to act as a human shield. He swung that pole like a madman, desperately trying to beat the zombies back. My palms started sweating as I watched the life and death struggle through the lens. More zombies were swarming in from the right, cutting off their path to the vehicle. My heart was in my throat, pounding against my ribs. Luckily, that middle-aged man was sharp and didn't freeze up. The moment his family scrambled into the back, he didn't waste a second. He dove back into the cab and slammed his foot onto the accelerator. The van sent 2 zombies blocking the road flying through the air. They managed to break out of the complex and disappear into the night. Only then did Yuan Q and I finally let out the breath we'd been holding. That family must have run out of food and used the cover of darkness to make a break for it. I felt a wave of relief that I'd stocked up on supplies so we didn't have to risk a suicide run like that. But the night was far from over, and things didn't go the way I expected. 4 or 5 more families decided to stage their own escapes right after that. And almost all of them were families trying to save their elderly parents. There were children too, but many of them didn't share the same luck as that first family. They made so much noise that they attracted more and more zombies to the area. Quite a few were bitten and turned, and only a handful actually managed to escape. This whole situation was highly unusual for the apocalypse so far. Before tonight, people only moved in and out of the complex occasionally. It was usually just a few brave souls scavenging for food under the radar. But seeing this many people making a move all at once, with all that noise, it clearly wasn't normal. It was like they had all coordinated a plan. I wondered if they had received some kind of news. At that moment, I still had my doubts and plenty of suspicions. I figured I had nothing to lose, so I started messing around with the radio equipment. After more than half an hour, I finally figured out how to power it on. A distorted government broadcast crackled through the speakers, slowly becoming clearer. Attention citizens, this is an urgent announcement due to the severe destruction of the city. The area has been evacuated, and a safe zone has been established at the City B Sports Center. All capable citizens are invited, provided they can guarantee their own safety, to make their own way to the City B safe base. Repeating announcement. So, a safe zone actually existed. Hearing this news, Yuan Q and I just looked at each other in silence. It made sense now why so many families with elderly parents were fleeing last night. I looked at her and said, "We aren't going. Let's wait a little longer and see how things play out." Day 52 of the zombie apocalypse. We decided against heading to the government's safe zone in City B. First of all, we still had plenty of food and electricity. Second, the road there was full of too many unknown dangers. The radio broadcast hadn't stopped, repeating the same message 24/7. As night fell, even more people in the residential complex tried to make a break for it. Many didn't even make it past the gates. The noise they made drew in hundreds of zombies, making the risk far too high. As long as we kept our homes secure, our supplies could easily last us over a year without ever stepping outside. But in this world, you never know if you'll see tomorrow or if tomorrow will see you. Just when I thought we could live comfortably through the end of the world, disaster struck. I had prepared for fires, thieves, and zombies. I thought I had considered everything, but I never expected my own home to flood. A pipe had frozen and burst when the air temperature shifted. By the time Yuan Q and I got back from the roof, it was already too late. The entire house had been turned into a lake. Our supply boxes were soaked through, falling apart and floating aimlessly in the water. The drains in the bathroom and balcony were clogged with soggy cardboard, making it impossible for the water to escape. The entire house lost power because the outlets got soaked, leaving me in total darkness. Yuan Q and I scrambled to shut off the water valves inside the house, but it was useless. The burst pipe kept spewing water without stopping. The main water valve was all the way down in the corner of the first floor. Yuan Q and I hesitated, weighing our options. The number of zombies in the residential complex had increased significantly. If we risked going down there, we were walking into a death trap. The danger was massive, but most of our supplies were sealed or canned. At least those weren't at risk of contamination yet. However, the water level kept rising and the drainage was painfully slow. It was still freezing outside, and with the house flooded and the heat off, I didn't know how much longer we could hold out. What do we do? Going down is suicide, but if we stay, the water will eventually ruin everything we have left. I made the call. We have no choice. Prep the gear, wait for dark, and we move. Yuan Q nodded and said, "I'll get the heavy coats and protection ready right now." We layered up, wrapping ourselves in thick robes over our clothes. I wound several layers of cardboard and duct tape around our limbs for armor. For our necks, we strapped travel pillows on each side and taped them down tight. We even dug out an old electric scooter helmet and strapped it on. We looked clumsy and it was hard to move, but we had luck on our side. These zombies hadn't evolved like the ones in movies or novels yet. For now, their movements were still incredibly slow. Night fell, and we finally cleared the mess away from the door. We pushed open the emergency exit and stepped out. In that instant, a thick, metallic stench of blood hit us like a wall. Even worse, half of that man's body was still stuck there in the hallway. I thought, this smell, it's enough to make anyone gag. I whispered to Yuan Q, "Don't be afraid. I'll lead the way, just follow my steps." With the power out, the entire stairwell was swallowed in shadows. Since light attracts zombies, we had to navigate the path in near darkness. We used the faint moonlight filtering through the windows to descend slowly. I had already used the drone to lure the upper floor zombies downward. I felt relatively safe, but below the 15th floor, we started hearing them. The low, guttural growls of the undead echoed against the walls. Judging by the sound of their dragging footsteps, there were more than a few. This forced us to slow down even more, holding our breath with every step. But when we reached the 12th floor, we hit a wall. We assumed the emergency doors would be shut and the hallway would be clear. But 7 or 8 zombies were huddled in the corner, blocking our only path. I needed to think of something fast, but my eyelid wouldn't stop twitching. I pulled out the cell phone I had grabbed from my house before leaving. I slowly pushed open a nearby door, just a crack, and I cranked the music on the phone to full volume. I tossed it directly into the hallway. The loud music immediately grabbed every zombie's attention. "Let's go," I whispered. Yuan Xiao and I held our breath and moved quickly, hugging the wall. But after just a few steps, I felt my foot land on something slick. I realized I had stepped on a zombie that was missing its lower half. With its one remaining hand, it lunged and grabbed a hold of an ankle. It had Yuan Xiao. I slipped trying to help, and both of us went tumbling down the stairs. My flashlight hit the floor and clicked on, suddenly illuminating the entire hallway. The zombies spotted us instantly, and I knew hiding was no longer an option. I hauled Yuan Xiao up, and we sprinted down the stairs like there was no tomorrow. The noise drew the zombies from the lower floors too, their footsteps echoing as they climbed. I raised the bamboo spear I had crafted to defend myself. From above, the horde was already starting to pour down toward us. In that life-or-death moment, Yuan Xiao unleashed a hidden fighting strength. She was extraordinary, taking down 3 or 4 zombies in a single heartbeat. We finally managed to break out of that hallway. But looking back at the horde chasing us, I knew going home was no longer an option. "Look, over there, quick!" I pointed toward a small convenience store with its door standing slightly ajar. I flashed my light inside. It looked empty, but I didn't have time for a full sweep. Yuan Xiao and I sprinted for the entrance with everything we had. We scrambled inside and slammed the glass door shut. I jammed my bamboo spear through the handles to lock it tight. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the store. Then I heard Yuan Xiao scream from somewhere deep inside the aisles. A stray zombie had tackled her, its massive weight pinning her to the floor. I felt a surge of rage. "You dare touch my wife? You want to die?" In that moment, I stopped thinking and let instinct take over. I lunged forward, tackled the monster off her, and wrestled it to the ground. I pinned it down, staring straight into its dead eyes. I started swinging. 1 blow, 2 blows. I lost count of the strikes. I didn't stop until it stayed still. It was the first time I had truly killed. We huddled in a corner, and she sobbed. "It's my fault. Are we going to die here?" "Don't talk like that," I said. "Your husband is a man who came back from the dead." We scoured the shop only to find there was no back exit. The glass door was the only way out, and a crowd was already gathering outside. Dozens of zombies were throwing themselves frantically against the glass. Our protective gear had saved us so far, but the door was reaching its limit. We hadn't even had a minute to rest. 10 minutes in, a sharp crack rang out as the glass began to give way. I bolted upright and shoved Yuan Xiao behind my back. I failed to protect her in my past life, but this time, it was on me. I was ready to risk it all, but just as I braced for death, a noise filled the room. "Hello, sweetie? Where are you? Why aren't you guys home?" The sound was coming from a phone inside her bag. "Dad, we're trapped by zombies in the neighborhood convenience store." "Don't be scared, daughter. Your father and Uncle Chun are coming to rescue you." That was the moment I witnessed the incredible grit of those 2 old men. Suddenly, a car horn blared from just outside the shop. It instantly snatched the attention of every zombie in the area. Then, I saw a sight I will never forget as long as I live. My father was behind the wheel of a modified pickup truck. Yuan Xiao's father was in the back, wearing a suit of homemade chainmail armor. He was wielding a massive industrial blowtorch like a weapon of war. To draw every zombie toward the truck, my father-in-law opened the valve. He cranked the safety on the gas tank, and in that instant, the nozzle hissed. A giant pillar of fire erupted, blasting directly into the horde. "Ha," he roared over the flames. "You think I've been playing zombie mode in Crossfire all these years for nothing?" The truck roared to life, luring the burning zombies away from the shop. That night, the entire complex was filled with the stench of roasted flesh. Day 54 of the zombie apocalypse, and our home finally returned to normal. My father and father-in-law got to work repairing the broken pipes. Meanwhile, my mother and mother-in-law started helping us clean up. We bailed out the flooded rooms and finally restored the electricity. I looked at them and asked, "Mom, why did you all come here?" "It was your father. He realized the network was down and couldn't reach you. It's a good thing they arrived when they did, or who knows what would have happened." "What's there to be afraid of?" my dad joked. "At worst, I'd just be reborn again." Except his luck is terrible. He already regressed once and almost got himself killed. I sighed and said, "Dad, could you please stop exposing me?" Day 87 of the zombie virus outbreak, and the weather finally began to clear. This strange, lethal cold snap had lasted all the way until April. Most of the trees along the road had completely withered away. To keep from freezing to death, Yuan Xiao, my mother, and my mother-in-law were building a simple greenhouse on the roof. They were planning to plant some vegetables. After eating radishes and potatoes every single day, I could barely take it anymore. I told them, "Once those greens grow, I'll make salads and stir-fry for everyone to satisfy our cravings." Meanwhile, I followed the 2 old men of the family, all of us fully geared up. We were preparing to clean the hallway near our front door. With the weather warming up, the hallway was still littered with zombies and the corpses they had shredded. Chunks of meat were starting to rot and stink, and if we didn't clean them up soon, they would easily breed bacteria and trigger a massive epidemic. The only problem was that these two old men clearly looked down on me. My father-in-law took the lead, carrying a small gas tank on his back. My father covered the rear, wielding the homemade spear I had crafted. And then there was me, holding a spray bottle of alcohol, misting the air above their heads. They claimed they'd given me the most important task and told me not to let the organization down. "Kid, make sure you spray that stuff well," my dad barked. "Don't you dare get sloppy." I sighed and replied, "I know, Dad. Uncle Joan, I promise I'll spray every inch with care." Day 135 since the zombie virus outbreak. Our home has a new member, a golden cat. I have no idea how it escaped the zombie siege and ended up on our roof yesterday. Up on the roof, this cat was busy stealing the dried fish my mother had set out to cure. Its scrawny little body was dragging a fish 2 or 3 times its own size. Luckily, my reflexes were sharp and I managed to lift the fish up, but the cat wouldn't let go. It just dangled there, clinging to the dried meat. That's how I ended up carrying it right into the house. I figured it was just a stray that would leave soon, but then my mother saw it. She thought the poor thing looked so pitiful that she gave it a sausage. As a result, it moved in with us, and surprisingly, it isn't aggressive at all. It doesn't cause trouble, doesn't chew the furniture, and actually lets us pet it. It lets us hold it and kiss it, living a life of pure, shameless luxury. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to have been touched by the zombies in Building 3. This cat is lucky. Day 168 since the zombie virus outbreak. After a period of violent explosions, the zombies in the apartment complex have finally stabilized. There haven't been any new hordes, and I haven't seen any signs of further evolution. The two old men in my house have even started naming the zombies they can see from the window. The one crawling with only half a body under the opposite building, they call him the lowrider. The zombie that wanders aimlessly across the lawn next door every single day, they call him the tireless. And the one wandering naked through the complex is the exhibitionist. They even pulled out a chessboard and started making bets on them. "Old Joan, let's bet. Whoever loses has to go out there and put some clothes on that exhibitionist." "Fine, let's bet then. I'm not afraid of you, and I know I'll win." Fortunately, my mother and mother-in-law shut down the old men's arrogance with a quick combo. That afternoon, Yuan Q and I were strolling on the roof with Dayu in my arms. Suddenly, a low buzzing sound echoed in my ears. I recognized that sound immediately. A swarm of drones appeared before my eyes, leaving me stunned for a moment. As they flew closer, I saw the logo clearly. It was the flag of the rescue team. The drone hovering over our apartment complex suddenly broadcasted a voice. "Citizens, this is the government speaking. We are glad to see you again, and the rescue team has assembled. In 2 hours, the government will cover this entire airspace to drop vaccines. Supplies are coming, and we hope to meet you all again in the very near future." Day 169 since the zombie virus outbreak. My entire family has been vaccinated as of tonight. Day 176 since the zombie virus outbreak. First, a massive explosion rang out shortly after a vehicle had moved past. Then, right at the emergency door of our home, a burst of urgent, heavy knocking echoed through the hall. Living in this hell for so long had kept my family's nerves stretched to the breaking point. Instinctively, we all grabbed whatever weapons we had close at hand. Nobody made a sound as we stared cautiously at the door, then a voice called out, "Hello? Is anyone there? Is anyone there? We're members of the rescue team. We have orders to protect you for a temporary evacuation. Is anyone there?" None of us answered, even though the government had just announced the rescue mission. In this apocalypse, things are unpredictable, and caution is the only thing that keeps you alive. Yuan Q crept silently toward the window and peeled back the curtain just a fraction. She looked back at me and gave a sharp nod. Only after her signal did we finally, slowly, lower our guard. I reached out and opened the door. As the heavy bolt slid back, I saw several rescue team members standing there, fully armed. They wore crisp uniforms, scanned us from head to toe, and stepped inside. "Greetings, comrades. We're under government orders to carry out this rescue. Every infected soul on your street has been eliminated. You are safe now." "Thank you," I said. "You've all worked incredibly hard." For half a year, we had barely spoken to anyone outside our walls. Hearing the words, "You are safe," struck a chord deep in my heart. We began to slowly make our way down the stairs. By the time we stepped out of the building, the light was already fading. A few survivors emerged from the other buildings, their faces etched with exhaustion. They looked utterly drained. I even saw Mrs. Shang leaving the first floor with her grandson, flanked by the rescue team. The old woman actually seemed to be in high spirits. It turned out there were still plenty of people holding out in this apartment complex. As we moved forward, a blood-red sun began to rise slowly over the horizon. Little Yu stretched lazily in Yuan Q's arms as I watched the dawn break.